Hello and welcome to the Mill Creek View CEO Special with me, your host, Steve Abramowitz, where I interview the best business people and entrepreneurs. Hello and welcome back to the Mill Creek View CEO Special with your host, Steve Abramowitz. We are focused on the best businesses doing good business in America. Today we are in studio with Scott Pranger. But first, for more information about the CEO Special or the Mill Creek View stable of podcasts, visit us anywhere you get your podcasts or videos at Mill Creek View. While you're there, please subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of this amazing content and pass it on. And thanks for doing it. StaksPay. Staks Sports is a fan appreciation app and the easiest way to show your favorite musicians some love. Ensure the success of your favorite artists. Paying and tipping via mobile payment with Staks Sports puts more money directly in artists' pocket so they can continue to perform and create the music you love. Scott Pranger, Chief Executive Officer. Scott is a 3-time Inc. 500 entrepreneur and holds a demonstrated track record in expanding publicly traded and early-stage companies into U.S. and international markets. Pranger occupied multiple executive positions and served on boards of directors, garnering significant experience in profit and loss management, mergers and acquisitions, and venture capital and private equity fundraising. An established force in the field of entrepreneurial information technology and software industry operations, Scott was inducted into his university's College of Business and Analytics Hall of Fame in 2024. Scott, you have a team behind you at Staks Sports led by software developers and architects with expertise in fintech, media and entertainment technology verticals, AWS-based enterprise-grade software architecture and strategy, blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and cybersecurity. Tell us about your team.
Yeah, well, first of all, we're kind of spread around today, Steve. In today's world, it's pretty easy to collaborate together and work together remotely, which, I mean, really couldn't even do this 5 years ago with a lot of the things we do. But our executive team, our head of sales, our CRO, he's in the Bay Area, lives in San Francisco, Troy Solomon. We've got 2 heads of product because of the different product activities that we have underway. We need to kind of bifurcate into 2 areas. One is a gentleman that heads up all of our Web 2.0 initiatives and payment software development. And then secondly, we've got another chief product officer that focuses on Web 3.0 and also artificial intelligence technology. So we've got 2 heads of product based on what it is that we're trying to accomplish in software development. Mm-hmm. And then in Atlanta, and by the way, those two gentlemen are in New York and Columbus, respectively. And then in Atlanta, we've got our president and chief operating officer. His name's Corey Rains. And he actually is a business and law graduate from the University of Georgia. And prior to joining us at Staks, he had his own media and entertainment law practice. So his customers are actually a lot of the same type of people that we want to work with in our company.
Very nice.
And it doesn't hurt to have a lawyer in house too, in a software company like ours. So we benefit from that as well in terms of cutting costs on legal. And then our software development team is actually spread over 3 countries, India, Argentina, and Brazil. And we've got a really solid team. We're very happy with the group that we have. They're actually doing the coding for us. And then there are other activities in the company where we outsource work really on more of a project basis and employ contractors and W-9 kind of type workers versus hiring FTEs and bringing them in-house.
Mm-hmm. And how many employees are we up to now?
About 20 today, 18 probably. I think 18 is probably the exact number.
And I mentioned your claim to fame, your college business, but I didn't say which college was it.
It was Southern Illinois University at Carbondale.
Nice. All right.
Yep. Salukis.
And you chose Nashville as your headquarters. What brings you here?
There was actually a family reason for moving here. I was actually prior to being in Nashville, I was working in Palo Alto, California, in Silicon Valley. And my parents were getting up in age, and I've got 3 other siblings and a bunch of nieces and nephews that all live within 10 minutes of my parents' house, up near St. Louis, Missouri, directly north of St. Louis. And so part of it was, I wanted to be somewhat close to them. And then I've got 2 grown children that actually live in Alpharetta, Georgia. And so I wanted, it was basically very fortuitous. It's about a 4.5 hour drive, each way. And then also, at the time when I looked at Nashville, the city is growing rapidly, virtually no unemployment. I always tell people if you're not working in Nashville, then there's a reason why you're not working. and I also thought the demographics and everything favored technology companies being based here as well. I could tell from being out in Silicon Valley that there was a exodus already underway, people moving out of California. You don't have to be in Silicon Valley anymore, especially with the tools and capabilities we have now to enable, remote work and work from home. So just, and it's just a great city. I mean, there's nothing to dislike about Nashville.
Yeah, that is true right there. So the vision of the company, Stack Sports, a digital ecosystem anchored by a mobile app designed specifically to meet the needs of the gig economy. Nashville is all about that, not retrofitted from yesterday's W-2 and FTE models. That's awesome for a vision statement, but tell us more. Flesh that out for us so people who aren't looking with their eyes and maybe listening with their ears can understand what Stack Sports is all about.
Yeah, well, we actually... last year, I think it was the last time I saw you, Steve, during the event we had at the Gibson Garage downtown. We had just released really the first full production version of our StaksPay app, which is our fan app, and then the Staks Musician app, which was designed really for the performers and the artists. And we through the software we created, we automated a number of different payment tasks and transactions. There's other things that people in that line of work need to do. First of all, they're all gig workers to begin with. They're not employees. It's kind of like project-based work almost when you're a performer. And so anyway, we automated a number of tasks in terms of how the performers get paid, but also then how they actually pay themselves, how they pay other gig workers that support them. So if you're, an up and coming artist, if you go out on the road, you're paying, you got a bus driver, you got a sound engineer, a lighting engineer, there's all these other gig type workers that support the performers. They need to get paid. And so we created some capabilities where, first of all, in terms of the fans paying them, we enable them to collect all their payments during a performance versus paying them out, each time there's a transaction, accumulate the total, and then based on whatever their deal is that they set up in the app, we'll chunk that payment up based on what their arrangement is, and then get everybody paid and move the money into their accounts. So there's no counting of cash. And even with the peer-to-peer mobile payment apps today, like Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App, when the artists are getting paid, it's going to one person, and they still have the problem when they get done. Somebody's got to count, figure out how much they got paid, and then they got to figure out how to move the money to everybody. So we solve all that problem, and then on the kind of the back end, on in terms of paying the other type gig, other gig workers, we have some mini payroll capabilities where you can create a group ID for the group that's supporting the artist. You can enter in what they're each owed based on what time frame they use. Oftentimes they get paid daily. And so with just a couple clicks, we can do an ACH pull out of whatever bank account they're using, and then split that up and get everybody paid just like with a payroll application. But instead, they're not employees; they're really gig workers. And then there's creation of invoices online, sending out a request for payment. There's the need to complete W-9. So like if you play at some Broadway location, whatever, there's a W-9 that's got to get completed usually before you play. So we just automated a whole bunch of those tasks. But at the end of the day, it's all about fan engagement and driving fan engagement. And the other unique thing we do is that all of the transaction history that's created around all these different activities, especially when a fan is paying the performer, we have all that history. We have their email address, their phone number, where they live, when they saw the artist, how much did they pay, what time of day, what date. So you have all this rich, transaction history that basically enables the artists then to communicate directly with their fans because they have a way now to reach them. And then the other thing, by the way, I'm learning every day in this business. The other thing we learned is that, we've been told by multiple parties that when you're a new artist, up-and-coming artist, and you're trying to, get a record deal, the record labels won't sign you unless you can prove that you have a fan base.
Makes sense.
So you could be the Beatles and walk in, and if you can't prove you got fans that show up to your performances or whatever, they're not going to sign you. It's become very analytically driven. And so, we provide another way for them to provide proof of the fact that, people actually like their music.
Yeah,
and the size of their audience.
A lot of these musicians and artists have talent with a guitar or a keyboard, but they can't run a business. And so this is sort of like a virtual CFO that allows them to keep tabs of things. And I'm sure if they're going from a Tennessee state with no income tax to, say, Pennsylvania or New Jersey with high, you have the opportunity to distinguish about the taxation on each of those deposits that are being made, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So but the other thing we did, Steve, towards the end of first of all, when you're doing a startup, typically there's unforeseen challenges that occur that you then have to respond to. And in my career, I spent a big proportion of my career actually selling fintech technology, payments technology, internet banking, corporate banking, or cash management. And platforms that process wires and ACH transactions and all these different payment type transaction types, and sold technology to the largest credit card processors like Visa and MasterCard, American Express, and one of the things that happened to us when we finally kind of launched the first real, what we felt was a real whole product, which was a really solid first release, we started to see a lot of fraud. And what we learned was that we believed our KYC capabilities, which stands for Know Your Customer, Know Your Client, was strong enough for what we were trying to do. But obviously the bad guys have gotten a lot more sophisticated. And so we started to see quite a bit of fraudulent transactions. And I joke about this, and it's not funny, but I tell our guys, like, we built a really good money laundering platform.
I was going to say, the difference between selling a T-shirt on a show and a dime bag of Coke is not that dissimilar in the numbers.
Yeah. So anyway, and we always had the fear that our technology could be used to facilitate commerce in areas of the economy that we don't want to get involved in.
Sure.
And then the other thing is, and we always had the bigger vision that we were going to target the gig industry. And really music was the first one. We also had a couple of sports segments. The student athlete NIL market with colleges today was one. E-gaming was another kind of adjacent market that we wanted to go into that had like gig-like characteristics to them. and so we were even starting to get used by some gig businesses, like companies that hire people for hotels to clean rooms, people to work in the kitchens, and we found that wasn't really, it's a tough market to operate in. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
You have employees that don't have Social Security numbers, don't even have ITIN numbers. Mm-hmm. They don't have bank accounts. It's some of them really aren't here legally. They come over on a vacation visa, work 6 months, and go home and stay as long as they have to, and then they come back. And there's just a lot of stuff going on that's a little questionable, and because of that, we were probably also getting dragged into more. We're being used by customers that were using us for, basically to steal from people.
Ill-intentioned purpose.
Yeah.
Is there a cryptocurrency aspect to this, and how does Staks set itself apart from the market like a PayPal? That is a really good question. One of the other mistakes we made and learned from quickly, and we're fixing it right now, is that just the name StaksPay was, and I take full responsibility for myself for this, just the name StaksPay is a terrible name for our fan app or our fan engagement app, even though it's anchored heavily in payment, type functionality. When you say, "Oh, we got this thing StaksPay," the first question we were always getting from everybody was, "Okay, well, how do you compare with Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App?" Like, that's a terrible starting point for a company to be in. And the world, in my opinion, the world doesn't need another peer-to-peer mobile payment app. Now, I believe there are other people that are going to become prominent in that area. Apple, Google. There's things going on right now where the current state of competitors isn't going to stay status quo. But it's still, for us, we needed a brand for our fan app that more reflected what it is we're trying to do. And so we're rebranding it right now, Staks Fan. And then also, in addition to Staks Musician, we're creating an app for athletes called Staks Athlete. We'll repurpose almost all the functionality for like the college NIL market. But that work is underway right now as well. And then the fan app will be able to be utilized across both. We look at them all as performers. So when we look at the ecosystem that we operate in, at the highest level, there's performers, and those could be musicians, it could be athletes, and then there's products that, through their activities, that get sold to fans: tickets, merchandise, concessions. There's a whole host of things that get sold. It could be digital collectibles. So there's a whole host of products that get sold. Then there's channels, and the channels could be a venue, could be a pure play ticketing platform. So all these different products are getting sold through channels. Then there's a layer of like influencers that influence the market. So like with college NIL, could be the head of the NCAA, could be the coaches on teams, could be the athletic department. There's all these different, the media. There's all these different, and then lastly, the ultimate person who drives the entire industry, whether it's music, sports, is the fans. Like, if you don't have the fans, you don't have a business. So that's kind of how we view the market. And so going back to your real question, which was crypto, in that context, we looked at, first of all, we also minted our own cryptocurrency last year. It was called Staks Coin. And we had some specific purposes for it. We weren't trying to create another, meme coin or anything like that. We had some very specific use cases where we wanted to use our own coin. But after FTX blew up in
October, November last year, and Signature failed. Like there was things happening in the market. We concluded one of my first jobs ever in my career. I sold trading system technology on Wall Street to all the big investment banks, broker dealers, stock exchanges, and I could tell that because of really what happened with FTX, that there was a tsunami going to be coming down at that industry, and it's going to get regulated, because at that point it wasn't regulated at all. And so I didn't want to be standing anywhere near that bomb when that went off. I didn't, because when we got involved in it, you could tell where, there could be some fraud in that business. Based on what I knew, based on our experience creating our own coin, it was pretty easy to see, and without any regulation, it was pretty easy to see why some people got themselves in trouble.
Yeah, like counterfeiting, basically.
But we see crypto. First of all, we have an NFT business now where we create digital collectibles, and if you go to OpenSea, you're almost forced to use a crypto to buy NFTs off their marketplace. So you first of all, so you need to have the ability to do that. So your app needs to have a wallet. You need to be able to support crypto. You have to be able to move back and forth between fiat currencies and cryptocurrency. And so that was the first use case. But then we filed a couple of patents last year. One was that we believe there was an opportunity to create a crypto-based fan rewards program. By the way, it wasn't 2024 when I got it nominated and accepted into the College of Business Hall of Fame. It was 2004. Like I'm an old guy.
Oh,
yeah.
You're not a future. Yeah.
Next
year. Okay.
And I remember back in the day, it didn't last very long while I was young, but the business was around for quite a while, and that was the S&H Green Stamps program, if you even know what that is. Mm-mm. But before technology,
I remember Topps trading cards, but
yeah. Well, before technology got cheap enough to allow each business to have its own customer loyalty and rewards program, there was a national program called S&H Green Stamps, and they basically gave the consumer a book, and when they made purchases around all the local merchants or the gas station or whatever, they would print out these stamps, and it was typically done by mothers at that time, and they would take the stamps they earned, they put them in the book, and when the book got full, they could trade the book in for cash, or they gave the consumers like almost like a Sears Roebuck catalog that the whoever's in the family was responsible for the book would go through and they could buy things with this book of stamps. So the stamps was the reward. You had to earn enough of them in order to be able to buy something that you wanted. And but now
an early Groupon.
Basically. Yeah, exactly. But now all these companies have their own programs, and so you, as a consumer, you're stuck with these points that you're accumulating all over the place. And so we designed and architected a platform that would allow us to build a system that would work with anyone's point program. You have to. Each company has its own value for their points, but we wanted to basically create an exchange rate that would obviously have to be adjusted on the fly because things are happening with the price of Bitcoin or Ether or whatever you're using. But get people to have the option to be able to move into a crypto by exchanging their points for a crypto. Now they can accumulate enough of these. It's like back to the old S&H Green Stamps. Now you're getting them from all the people you do transact business with.
To be able to use your frequent flyer miles with your gas points and whatever.
Exactly. And then
before I went out of time with you, I wanted to just move. So that you have on your website, the future of sports looks like live areas that will define the next 50 quarters of sports and tell us how to capitalize on these trends moving forward. Esports and gaming, payments and currency, Web 3.0, venue and facilities, and globalization. How does the gig economy fit into those?
Well, for us, the big thing for us that we're focused on right now is NFTs, which kind of crosses over a couple of those areas. Web 3.0 and cryptocurrencies, and what we're doing there, we have two NFT type businesses, but they both involve NFTs. One is I call it a scarcity business, and we work with athletes. We'll create a painting of the athlete. It's a real painting, a poster-sized painting. We digitally scan it, and then with the scan, we create an NFT. The NFT can become part of a smart contract. We're doing this with a few athletes, where we add, signed shoes, a basketball shoot around or a throwing catch session for football, whatever it is, and then that gets sold to the fans. And what it allows the athlete to do is generate NIL dollars. And then there's a volume business. This is where AI comes into play. We're using AI image generation technology. We can create a picture and convert that into an NFT, and then we can sell that at a much, much lower price than when we're combining that with a painting. So I call that the volume business. So that's one area where we're, basically the athletes now, when they go to school, they're now in business for themselves.
Because of NIL.
Because NIL.
Yeah.
They're all in business for themselves now. So technically they're a gig worker today.
And the gig economy is definitely here to stay. 36% of U.S. workers today are now involved in the gig economy. More than 50% of the U.S. workforce will participate by 2027, assumptions say, and around 1.4 trillion is contributed to the U.S. economy annually from freelancing. Yet gig workers of all types lack the tools and resources they need to easily pay and get paid in a cashless, one-off world. Sure, there are digital payments apps out there, but what about bulk payments or payments that need to split across a group? Leaving a digital tip when you don't have cash and before you know the recipient's name, finding new fans, clients, or customers without complex ad campaigns. So how does Staks fit in?
Well, I like to use the NIL example just because one of the things we learned, Steve, over the last several months is just how big the sports industry is. It's estimated to be a $1.3 trillion business market today in the United States. It's crazy. It's
huge.
Valuations of teams are going through the roof. There's a lot of things that are fueling that. Gambling is heightened the interest in sports and games but the other patent we filed that applies to music and sports is that today, like with the last Super Bowl, tickets go on sale. They go on sale retail between $200 and maybe $2,000. The next day, that $2,000 ticket is being sold for like $22,000. That's okay. The problem with that is that the original rights holder that's supposed to make money off that ticket gets nothing on that. Where I gave that example, receives no compensation for that $20,000 bump in the price. And most tickets, probably not 50%, but a high percentage, when they go on sale, there are bots and other things go out and they gobble up all the inventory. Then they mark up the prices and resell them, just like with Taylor Swift's concerts.
Right.
But the party that is the rights holder for that ticket is making nothing on those transactions. Using the properties of NFTs and blockchain technology, the great thing about NFTs is when they get resold, like the original creator, whatever the deal is, earns income on every transaction. Similarly, by turning the tickets into NFT, Jerry Jones can make money on every resale of Dallas Cowboys tickets.
Right.
But when we looked at it, we were like, we are not that smart. If we're sitting around talking about this now, like we're 50th in line. But what we did come up with was a very novel and different approach where the actual NFT is not the ticket; it's actually the seat. Because what really is of value is that seat, whether it's a temporary seat or a permanent seat, and so we create a method where we want to turn seats into NFTs, and by virtue of doing that, then we can associate back every ticket for every event to the original seat. Now you're really leveraging the properties of blockchain technology.
So a season ticket holder could actually get paid on the retransactions, the buy and sell of that game up until game time.
Or the team.
Or the team, if they
whoever is considered the
stadium owner.
Yeah, the stadium owner. I mean, Bridgestone Arena in Nashville is ranked pretty much every year now as the top venue in the entire United States. That place is more utilized than any other place in the U.S. Well, Bridgestone Arena is not making money in all those. Mm-hmm. They should be making more money.
Yeah, Madison Square Garden, I think, operates at a loss too.
And then so instead of having a general ledger created just for one ticket for one event, you're creating a general ledger now for the seats. And by virtue, with the architecture and everything we created, you can now point to every seat and pinpoint exactly what's worth. So it's a good way to figure out what my venue is really worth. And by the way, all the transaction history is captured. You know, who bought it, who sold it, how much, you know, when, you know, what day.
Yeah, literally valuable analytics.
Yeah. So,
well, Scott, thank you for joining us on the CEO Special. We wish you great success with this business. Tell everyone where they can go to find out more about Staks Sports, Staks Athlete, Staks. What was the other one?
Staks Musician.
Staks Musician, and follow you on social if you have that, and sign up as a customer.
Yeah, well, our social handle is @officialstaks, and that's across all the platforms. So official Staks with an @ you know, that leads it, and then our new website is www.staksports.com, and then we have a separate offshoot website for the music business, and that's. Today it's still www.StaksPay.com. And Staks is STAKS.
Yeah, and you did trademark that, so you might as well use it.
Yeah, and my last name is pronounced Pranger too. I mean, not that you would know that, no one would ever know that, but my dad would be very upset. People are calling me Pranger. So anyway,
well, that A is deceptive.
It's like a German pronunciation. But anyway, hey, Steve, thank you very much. I really appreciate you inviting me here to do this. Anyway, enjoyed doing it. Hopefully I can come back here again sometime soon.
Yeah, thrilled to have you, and we will definitely be watching the progress of the company as it goes along.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome to my Book a Day segment, where I introduce you to a book I think you'll enjoy and learn from. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. One of the most inspiring and impactful books ever written, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People has captivated readers for nearly 3 decades. It has transformed the lives of presidents and CEOs, educators, and parents. Millions of people of all ages and occupations. Now this 30th anniversary edition of the timeless classic commemorates the wisdom of the 7 habits with modern additions from Steve Covey. The 7 habits have become famous and are integrated into everyday thinking by millions and millions of people. Why? Because they work. With Sean Covey's added takeaways on how the habits can be used in our modern age, the wisdom of the 7 habits will be refreshed for a new generation of readers. They include habit 1, be productive. 2, begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. Think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Synergize. And lastly, sharpen the saw. This beloved classic presents a principle-centered approach for solving both personal and professional problems with penetrating insights and practical anecdotes. Stephen R. Covey reveals a step-by-step pathway for living with fairness, integrity, honesty, and human dignity, principles that give us the security to adapt to change and the wisdom and power to take advantage of the opportunities that change creates. That's it for this episode. That's it for this season. I really hoped you liked it. We'll be back soon. If you like what you heard here, be sure to check out our other shows, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the Mill Creek View, Tennessee, on all your podcast stations and Rumble, Washington and Florida now, and subscribe to mcview.us to get updated news. And thank you for doing it. Until next time, this is your host, Steve Abramowitz, CEO of the Mill Creek View, signing off. Peace in our time.